Hi, welcome to How to Repair. In this video we're going to be unboxing a Beko condensing tumble dryer, but we're not doing it the same as every other video that's out there on the internet. We are specifically looking at how to maintain the machine to prolong the lifespan for you. These machines are very good when it comes to technical information. Beko do produce very in-depth workshop manuals to show you how to diagnose problems, fault find, self-test mode, and also exploded diagrams of all the machine. Now we're going to be unboxing the machine and I'm going to talk you through how to maintain it, common faults that can occur, and when a fault occurs, how to rectify the problem. And at the end of the video, I'll supply you a link to the full workshop manual with exploded diagrams of this machine, which also has the wiring diagrams as well. Okay, as I'm unboxing the machine, I'm going to quickly explain some things to you. Firstly, we are working on, at the moment, a DTKCE80021W. Let me explain model numbers to you. Model numbers are usually done for the supplier, but these model numbers are specifically for some of these superstores. This way that they can do price match guarantees because no one else has that model. It's a little bit of a misleading concept, and I'll put that politely. Basically, with all machines, they make the part industry very, very complicated by having so many different variations of the machine. The only thing you really need to know when unboxing is actually always cut it on the polystyrene. This way you won't mark the machine at all. Once you have unpacked the machine, make sure you open the door and remove the transit foam that's inside. Okay, now we're ready to actually use the machine, but there's a couple of things I would recommend you do before even trying to use the machine. Manufacturers print these manuals for your benefit, not theirs. It's not just pretty packaging, it is there to actually make sure you understand the functionality of the machine and how to install the machine correctly. It is very important that the machine is level when it comes to a condensing tumble dryer, because you have water drain off holes at the condensing unit, which we'll go into in a minute. These condensing plates have to actually be level for the water to drain to the pump system to go up to the collection tray on the actual machine. Next, when it comes to the electrical system, it is very important that the machine is plugged into the correct supply. So many people over the years have had machines connected in extension leads which are inadequate, or had multiple machines plugged into the wrong socket system in their house. I'll quickly explain this. This is a 13 amp appliance, and a washing machine, for example, is also a 13 amp supply. Now, if both of these machines were plugged into a ring main, that is correct. But if they were plugged into a spur, which is an individual cable that comes to the socket, then you would be overloading the cabling system and the capability of the supply. A 2.5mm spur is only capable of 16 amp supply. And if you are overloading the socket or the cabling system, you are going to get problems and risk of fire as well. When it comes to extension leads, they are not recommended to be on extension leads, but I know a lot of you have to have them on extension leads. Make sure that the cabling system for the machine is adequate for the supply of the machine. This is a constant 13 amp, between 10 and 13 amp load when the heating system is on. So it needs to be adequate thick cable and also earthed and made sure that it's fused as well. Okay, with this machine comes a pump bypass system. This actually can be connected directly to your plumbing, and this basically stops the water going to the collection tray and can go straight into the drainage system. It is quite useful, but you are still using the pump system. Now, the most important thing I can emphasize to all of you is whenever you select a program, whether it is a set program or a timed program, always let the machine finish its program before you go opening the door to check if the clothing is dry. And I'll explain why. As soon as you open that door to cut the power supply and check the clothing, you are creating excess heat in the heater unit. The heater unit has a cutout thermostat on it, and this can overheat when you do this, and this can cause problems with the machine. I always recommend letting the program finish its cycle before checking if the clothes are dry. Okay, when it comes to using the machine, you have two types of programming. One is using a sensor system that detects the amount of moisture in the air. The other is the timed sequence, and this just controls the temperature of the air in the machine for a timed period. So if we set this machine onto iron dry, which is a high drying cycle, and press start, you will automatically see on the ampage meter here that we are pulling approximately 2700 watts of power, and this is about 11 amp. Now this would continue to dry the clothes until the moisture level has got to the level of the required program. The time sequence will only run for the period of time that is required, and this does not use the moisture sensor which is inside the machine. Okay, let's move on to maintenance and operation temperatures of the machine. Now, as you've all read the manual, yeah, really, the operating manual actually states that the temperatures should be between +5 degrees and 35 degrees. And let me explain why. The condensing process only works with a differential of air temperature. Imagine your car windscreen on a cold day steaming up because of the breath that you actually breathe. The moisture collects on the actual windscreen and then trickles down to the bottom. This is very similar to the condensing process on a tumble dryer. If you are outside of the manufacturer's required temperatures, it will not work efficiently. Now, although the manufacturer states 5 degrees to 35 degrees C, I would actually say use the machine in somewhere in the region of 10 to 15 degrees with a maximum of 25 to 30 degrees. The reason being is the machine will be more efficient at this temperature because the condensing process works correctly. Okay, I'm quickly going to explain how often you should clean each individual component and why. And I'm going to bring some diagrams up on the screen here to show you the airflow so you understand the process and what is actually happening in the machine. Firstly, the air comes over the heating unit, which is driven by a single fan blade at the back of the machine. This air is blown into the machine and evaporates the moisture in the clothing. This warm, moist air then travels down through the filter system. This should be cleaned every load. Down here is a ducting system which takes the air through to the condenser. I would recommend vacuuming this area out at least once every couple of weeks. This will remove any fluff and stop it getting down to the condensing unit at the bottom. The condenser is down here, but you need to understand the two airflows that take place. Cold air is drawn into the machine through a separate fan blade at the front of the machine. This cold air goes across the condenser and out to the bottom of the machine. The warm air travels through the ducting unit and then through the condenser. And if we take the condenser out to have a look at it, you have two airflows. The one airflow goes through all the way through the condenser, and this is where the warm moist air condenses and the water then trickles down to the pump unit to come either to the collection tray or to be emptied into the drainage system. The cold air comes through the side of the condenser and then out through the machine at the bottom. It is very important once every month or so that you take this either into your shower or outside and give it a thorough clean. When they're really bad, I have used a pressure washer on these to remove all the fluff, because as you see from the side here, you have ducting fins. It's very important not to damage these in any way, and it's also important to make sure the air can flow through all these compartments easily. And then you have plates at the back here, which also need to be cleaned. This air then travels through all the way to the back of the heating unit, where it's drawn back into the machine after the moisture in the air has been collected. If the system blocks up with fluff, all you are doing is sending the warm moist air back up to the heater, and that's actually not very good for the heater, because electricity and warm moist air will cause earth problems over the long term, and it's not actually good for the heating system. You have two fan blades on the motor. One is to pull the cold air, as I said, the other is to circulate the hot air. These fan blades, once a year, need to be maintained. And I would actually take the side panels off the machine and give the machine a good clean once a year internally, depending on how much you use it, of course. 2 years at the most, but really you want to maintain the machine to create the best airflow possible so the machine works efficiently, doesn't overheat and cause problems. The air is drawn through the actual condenser at the back here, and it goes past the pump system back up over the heating system that's here. Now we're quickly going to dismantle the whole of this machine so I can explain where every component is, but I have done many additional videos to assist you in replacing any component on this machine, and they're all in a playlist. Also, at the end of the video, I'm going to put a link to the exploded diagram of this machine, which you can see on the screen here, and also the workshop manual and wiring diagram to assist you in any repairs that you have in the future. Now we've got the machine totally open and exposed, so I can show you each individual component, show you how to maintain it, and also explain what they do in case you have a fault. And don't worry if you don't have the correct workshop manual for your machine, you can always use the website contact us page, giving us full information of the problem that you have, model number, and sometimes I will need the PNC number or product number off the identification label as well. So we have the main motor on the machine that turns the drum. As this rotates, it blows air up over the heating unit and into the drum to evaporate the water. This fan blade and compartment needs to be cleaned once every couple of years. There is also some ducting units down here that collect any moisture that builds up here and transfers it to the pump. These can clog, and we'll look at the pipework underneath the machine in a minute. The air drives up into the heater, and the heater is either a single circuit element or a dual circuit element depending on the type of model that you have. This is controlled by thermostats, and we have a thermostat or NTC sensor here, and this will be in the workshop manual with the correct value at a certain temperature. The thermostat to the right is actually not a thermostat, it is called a cutout thermostat. This is there to protect the system from overheating. If you hadn't listened to what I said at the beginning of the video and you'd used the machine for a year or a couple of years and been opening the door, testing the clothes to see if they're dry and then shutting the door, you would be disconnecting the airflow over this heater. This is where this cutout thermostat can overheat and go open circuit. But you're lucky. Beko actually have a thermostat on here that has a button on the top of it which you are able to press and reset the thermostat. Another circumstance that could cause this problem is if you hadn't maintained the machine and it had built up with fluff in the condenser or somewhere else in the machine. Even the fan blades, if they build up with fluff, will stop or restrict the circulation of air going through the heater, and this can cause a problem. And this would also cut out because of that. At the bottom of the machine here we have the pump unit with a micro switch, and the pump unit is there to transfer the water either to the top of the machine via one pipe, or it can be disconnected and used according to the workshop manual, the user manual, with the extension pipe which I talked about at the beginning of the video, and this can be put directly into your drainage system so that you don't have to empty the container. But there is also a micro switch down here, and this is there to detect the water level that is in this chamber. This chamber builds up with fluff if you do not maintain the front half of the machine. And when I say the front half of the machine, the filter, the ducting, the condenser is not cleaned regularly. Fluff can actually get through to this area and cause blockages in the pump. All these components we're talking about, I have done in-depth videos on how to test it and replace it, and they are all available in the playlist at the end of this video. You also have a couple of other, or one other pipe on here that connects underneath the machine, and these two pipes, one from this drain off point here and the other one that runs on the other side, are all prone to clogging, especially, believe it or not, with something like conditioner. When you're actually drying the clothes, small particles of water that still have a bit of conditioner in them actually collect in the bottom of the machine, and over a period of time these can turn into sludge and block the pipes. You would not believe what I have blown out of some of those pipes in the past. So that's the back half of the machine. Now we'll move on to the side of the machine to have a look at the motor unit. Okay, here on the side of the machine, on the right hand side panel, we have the main motor system that attaches to the forward fan blade for cooling of the ducting system, and also the rear fan blade which blows the hot air through the drum. We have a pulley system here that basically has a ratio to actually give the machine the horsepower it needs to be able to turn a heavy wet load of clothing. The motor is actually powered by a capacitor to get it going. And that capacitor on some occasions can fail, and I've done in-depth videos on servicing the motor and replacing the capacitor. A common symptom that you may have if the capacitor has gone faulty, the drum would not be turning and you may hear a distinct humming sound from the motor area. Now both of these fan blades need to be cleaned every couple of years, and if we open up the compartment here, you can actually see the other fan blade, and this drives the air through the ducting unit. All these areas inside here can build up with fluff, and I would always recommend every 2 to 3 years having an afternoon where you just take the side panels off, get the hoover out with an old paintbrush and carefully dust around the place to remove all the fluff and lint build-up that does occur. This is the biggest killer of tumble dryers. If you get too much fluff building up in the machine, it will cause problems in the long term. And that is your forward fan blade, that is your back fan blade. You also have a tensioning spring here that keeps the tension on the belt. Now hidden at the bottom of the machine is the rear ducting NTC sensor. This controls the temperature of or tells the circuit board the temperature of the airflow as it comes out of the condensing unit. You also have an NTC sensor at the front of the machine, which we'll look at in a second. But right down the bottom here, and I'll bring the camera down for you so you can see, is the NTC sensor. On the workshop manual, it will state the value of that NTC sensor at a certain temperature. As the temperature increases in the machine, that value will change, and that happens with the forward NTC sensor as well. As I said, the capacitor is at the top here, and you also have electronic filter and suppressor, and the wiring runs neatly in the ducting unit all through the machine and is protected from any wear or tear from the drum. You have the forward pulley wheel, 2 of these, 1 on either side. These need to be cleaned every 3-4 years, and of course the back bearing system, which actually is normally a phosphorus bronze bearing, and that needs to be inspected every 4 or 5 years. If you catch it early, these machines will go on forever nearly, as long as you maintain them and look after them. The electronics are all behind the main control panel here, and I've done detailed videos on how to actually replace relays on the circuit board, intermittent electrical problems, and also in the workshop manual there will be a procedure for entering test mode on these machines, which will show you how to go into diagnostic mode to find problems with the machine. The diagnostic mode will only point you in the correct direction, the same as an error code will. An error code is only there to tell an engineer that there is a problem with the heating circuit, the pump, or the motor, or any other type of fault that can occur on the machine. The other NTC sensor is behind the control panel here, and if we lift the filter out, I will just bring the camera down to show you the NTC sensor. If fluff builds up in this area and you have not maintained it, it will wrap around the NTC sensor and therefore give incorrect values to the electronic circuit board. Therefore, the machine may misoperate because of this build-up of fluff. The door mechanism works quite simply. You have a pecker or catch here, and as the door shuts it pushes into the door lock, which has a micro switch which activates to allow the machine to start. At the other side of the machine it's pretty basic. The door lock is up here and you can see the couple of wires going to the door lock. We have the other pulley wheel on this side that supports the drum, and we have a drain off pipe that runs down to the pump unit at the bottom. This is designed to capture any water that trickles to the front of the machine and drain that water down to the pump unit at the back. This can get clogged and there is another pipe underneath. On the side here you have the overflow pipe which runs down from the chamber, and you also have the pump main pipe which transfers the water to the collection tray at the top. Again, all this area once every 4 or 5 years needs to be hoovered out and maintained. Looking in through the side of the actual condenser, the condenser box is out of here. You'll notice down in the bottom there is a drain off hole that needs to be kept clear. Inside this compartment, this should be regular maintenance. Every sort of 6 months or so, you want to just go in here with a damp sponge and try and clear out as much of the fluff as possible. And if I turn the machine up on its side and we look underneath here, this is a common pipe that blocks regularly. Every 12 months or so, just tilt the machine over, use a pair of pliers, remove the 2 clips, take the pipe off and give it a clean. It does build up with a lot of sludge over a period of time. Now if you have a smart meter, it would help you in diagnosing problems with the machine, and this is always helpful in future, because if I show you this and I just put it onto an iron dry there and press start, if you let the machine run for 30 seconds or so, you would be able to look at your smart meter to understand the consumption of power that the dryer is using. And as you can see on the display here, we are drawing approximately 2.6 kilowatts of power, which relates to 11 amps. This means that the heater is working correctly. And by understanding certain things like this, you're able to diagnose problems with machines. Now, as I promised, in the description on this video, we'll take you through to a page where I have put all the collective information I possibly can with regards to this machine and repairing it in the future. I've put the workshop manual, wiring diagram, test procedure on there, and exploded views of the whole machine to assist you in getting spare parts in the future. Not only have we got this machine, but we have many other machines on there in the FAQ section with regards technical information that I've been able to gather from certain manufacturers. Now, some manufacturers do not supply the information and I cannot get you the workshop manuals. Companies like Bosch, Neff, Siemens, Daewoo, Samsung, LG and many other makes do not disclose the information. Companies that do, Beko manufactured machines, AEG, Electrolux, Zanussi, also Haier, Hoover, Candy, they all supply a certain amount of information to assist you in repairing your machines, but as I said, other manufacturers do not, and it's a bit of a disgrace when we're in a society now where we're meant to be more responsible, trying to maintain machines and make them last longer. Remember, I spend my own money on all these machines to make videos for you, so do support the website, it is much appreciated. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope all the information that I provided you assists you in repairing your machine in the future or diagnosing any problems. You've always got the contact us page at the website to get hold of me with regards to any information that you need. And remember to buy the parts off us, as that's what keeps us going and able to make these videos for you. And if we've really helped you, you can always click on the Bipolar Beer page and donate to the website. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Thanks very much indeed for watching.